You should be able to define what you think it is you want from your life. Your consistency and discipline to work on the things that you've identified as your strategy to achieve your goal. Very, very simply, that's what you need to do.
Welcome, James, my friend.
What's up?
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you as a brother. Appreciate you as a good friend. I think, why don't you just tell first, like, how did we actually meet?
Do you know what? I was hoping you were going to ask this question.
I didn't even plan it. I was like, how did we actually meet?
And I'm like, so my account of events might be different from your account.
Yeah. Tell them.
So it's a new year. It's the crossover from 2022 to 2023.
Yeah.
And it's in Lebreza. I think it had already gone.
It was after midnight, yeah.
I think it was like maybe 1 a.m., which is going to be contradictory to some information I'm going to be sharing later about keeping a sensible routine for sleep.
Yeah.
But I remember you came through there, like maybe with Rob and Luke. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But you had a big cigar, and I'm like, who's this guy with the cigar?
Yeah, right in front. You were literally just taking it out of my mouth.
Like, let me see that.
Let me have a sip, yeah.
Like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Oh, I know. And it was
That's a pretty cool way to meet someone for the first time, right?
And that's the thing. That's Bali in a nutshell. You know, you have that little touch point, and then you see them later on. And I think that's when we met up in the pool in Body Factory.
It was
probably the week after. Me like,
was
that you?
It could have been.
Yeah, exactly.
Could have been anyone.
Yeah. Well, man, like the reason why I wanted to chat with you today is because, I see you as first of all, you're a good dude. You've been super successful in your life already, both, with your business, but also life in general. What I want to share with people is really just what are the characteristics, what are the beliefs, what is that personality aspect that makes someone successful, So first thing first, like what is your definition of a high performance individual?
High performance individual. I think it's probably someone that understands exactly what they want and take the appropriate steps to get exactly what it is they've defined as what they want, right? And it might be excelling in any of their chosen fields, whether it be business or sports or relationships or whatever it might be, right? And you think high performance, you think athletes, or, traditionally, or you could be in, or business. But I think it can be anything.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot of it comes down to your understanding of what you think you might want, your ability to access, process information, to create a strategy to achieve the thing that you think you want, and your consistency and discipline to work on the things that you've identified as your strategy to achieve your goal. Very, very simply, across any field that you think, right, I want to do that, that's what you need to do. So if you want to become, I don't garden. If I wanted to become a high performance gardener, if I want to become the best at gardening, I'm going to go away, I'm going to do some research, I'm going to make a strategy to how am I going to do this, And it's the same when you apply it to anything, really.
Yeah.
I think if you can program your mind to work that way, nothing really becomes that difficult. Obviously, we're all different as humans, and different people are going to have certain limitations in their capability. But in terms of giving yourself the very best fighting chance to achieve in whatever your chosen field is, it's never been easier, in 2023 and probably in 24 and 25 even easier. And it keeps getting easier and easier if you are have already been given some advantages in life through luck, where you're born, your schooling, your ability to adapt to different situations, right? I'd say as well, there's definitely another element of that. It's not always the case. It's not always the case. So let's take a high performance athlete in any sport, whatever it might be. If with the appropriate amount of coaching from a very young age and consistency and skill that's applied to that field, depending on that person's mental capability and physical capability, they could become the very best, or they might be unlucky and they might not be able to. But yeah, I just think this stuff's very, very transferable. There's things that aren't transferable, which is bad stuff. When bad stuff happens to you, it's your response to it and how you react to it. And these things can often build. They say, it builds character, or it builds, grit, or whatever you want to call it. But there's things that are coachable, and there's things that aren't coachable. And it's often when people have experienced certain types of trauma or very bad situations that they're able to elevate themselves. Probably more applicable to you, it might be people that are finding themselves, from a client perspective, achieving in one area of their lives, whether that be business or, whatever, or something else, for example, or professionally, whatever it might be. But their health might be suffering. There might be other areas of their life that are suffering as a result of that.
Do you think you can be, fully successful? Like, you see a lot of people make a lot of money, and they're like, their marriage is out of whack, their health is out of whack. So do you think you can be truly successful without not having kind of all of them in order, like at least the health and you kind of like your personal standards and routines in place?
I'm not a life coach. It comes down to your definition of success, right? So financial success is one part of that. And this comes down to the goals thing, right? So your goal, really, your goal is to be successful. And then it's what are the bits of the jigsaw that you're plugging in, that you're measuring for yourself, right? Which are probably financial prosperity. Although I'm saying it first, but I don't think that should be first. Yeah, your overall health, your emotional well-being, your spiritual well-being, the strength of your key relationships, whether that be family, friends, whatever it might be, whatever your metrics are, and they're a very personal thing. Yeah. And people should look at them iteratively, let's say every quarter or every 6 months or whenever, and be like, how am I delivering on what my perception of success is? And they should articulate it, not just say it. They should write it down. You write it down as a goal. So whether it be, let's just take a relationship, for example. Say if you're suffering in your relationship, you're with a romantic partner or a wife or husband, whatever it might be, and your fitness, but everything else was great, then look at that. Try and understand why that might be and make changes. Or you decide that you accept scenarios for how they are. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But it depends on what your own perception of success is, and what do you value spending your limited resources in terms of time focusing on to achieve what your interpretation of success is. Pretty simple, really, if you look at it that way, right?
Exactly. Like, basically what I hear you say, which I totally agree with, it's like, start with the end in mind. Like, what is it that you actually want? Like, literally look at it for what do you want? And I think a lot of people just like, whatever, like, it sounds so, how do I grab onto it? But that's why you say, like, having a plan in place to get to where you want, but what you really want is really the most important thing. Otherwise, you can't steer towards it. You know what I mean?
You should be able to define what you think it is you want from your life. You should be able to define what you think you want now, in 1 year, in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, in 50 years. You should be able to, right? Even if it's a few bullet points. You should be aware enough of yourself to think, okay, or not be stubborn to say, well, I don't need to change that. There's things that, and you can always, it's fine to change your mind. Fine, as long as you can justify it, right? Myself included in this, when I say a lot of people, this is not some people doing things right or wrong. They don't have an awareness of this. They wouldn't approach their life with such a high degree of logic. And as a result, they end up in scenarios or doing things that they don't want to do, because they haven't thought through whether what they're doing, whether that be their behaviours or where they're focusing their time or their energy, supports the goals that they say that they want. Yeah. So it's possible that their goals are wrong, or it's possible they're not doing or don't have either the knowledge or the discipline to follow through on the behaviours that they know will help them achieve their goals.
Yeah, makes sense. So how do you, because I think that's majority of the people, it's kind of like everybody is like, think about what you want, set some goals, New Year's resolutions, like we read a book, we do some study and stuff. I think a majority of the people deep down actually want to become the best version of themselves. So why do you think so many people struggle? And I'm just picturing people in my mind right now, especially people past 30. Kids are in the picture right now, family, they have a job, they have whatever. Why do you think it's so difficult for people to break free from what they do on autopilot and how their life is basically set up, to actually stopping up and crafting a new reality and a new direction in their life? Like, what could people do in that situation? in a corporate job?
Being a corporate job specifically. I mean, it comes down to comfort, right?
Yeah.
There's a level of comfort and security. Typically, when families arrive and things like this, which is more desirable to have a level of risk mitigation and have security if you're working in a corporate type job. But there's certainly no security in it. I would argue very few jobs have genuine, true security these days. Well, in fact, some do. Medical professionals and let's say some legal professionals and.
What do you mean, like they just
blue light? Police force or army. There's things that do have a high level of security. There's a lot of things that don't. Everyone's fairly disposable. But what might stop people? I mean, the obvious answer is that they might be content. Maybe they're content with what they have, which is perfectly reasonable.
Yeah.
And I think you're only going to see. There's only going to be a desire to change things if there's a lack of contentment, whether that be for anything that you see in the world, whether that be your life or other things that you might want to do. I think people's metrics for what makes them happy, they don't have as big an understanding of what they are as they might think that they do.
So they then basically become colored by the environment and like, I'm okay, basically.
Maybe we have to be careful with the sort of words and the language and the direction, because there's lots of people that are probably very happy with living in a way which has proven to be relatively successful for quite a lot of people, and so there's nothing wrong with it. Is it the right thing? No. For me, no. Is it the right thing for us as humans to be sat at a desk in front of a computer screen for, let's say, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, so 40 hours a week over the course of let's say, 45 week working year? No, it's not. It's not like at a desk, like typing while staring at a screen, and then glued to our phones, and then doing this stuff. So if you actually look at how the world is set up in general, it's very, very strange. It's really weird. If you were to show people, let's say 100, 200, 500, 1,000 years ago, like a snapshot of like, okay, this is what people do now.
Yeah, it's
like,
strange.
what's going on?
Why? Yeah,
like, why are you doing
zombies in boxes? Like, yeah, it's true. That's technology in a certain way, and really how the world is evolving. What controls the world and what moves things around today. That's like machines and computers and technology. But
it is the way that we all live now. In general, is quite strange. But it's, you can simplify your life in different ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what's the original question? Why do people get trapped like this?
Yeah, I think it's just because it's like, and I totally agree with you. Like, obviously you and I are coming from an entrepreneurial side right now, and speaking a little bit to that, like freedom to be able to move around and stuff. It's not necessarily there I want to go. I'm just like, I'm talking with a lot of, friends, old friends, and even clients and that sort of thing that sits on the couch Sunday night and they're freaking motivated to do something about their body, about their life. They want to start that business they really wanted to do. And they kind of like see themselves go on this repeat thing, you know what I mean? Of like, I actually have ambitions. I want to do more. I speak a little bit to that person there, as you said, like content, but not fully content. And ultimately, I think maybe would live a little bit in regret 5, 10, 15 years from now, not doing something about their aspirations. What are some things that those people can do? They're, in that right now, and it's hard for them to break free.
Do you want my practical suggestions?
Practical is always good.
Practical and logical. Like, okay, right. So, what would I do if I was in that situation?
Yeah.
Somebody asked me this actually about, let's say, a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
The answer I gave them was on my phone. Actually, I gave them 11 bullet points. Right. I didn't know you were going to ask me this question, but I'll remember as many of them as I can.
Yeah.
Or it's a very similar question to this. They probably first of all need to make sure that they understand themselves and understand their ability to suffer hardship. They need to understand their ability to bear risk.
Yeah.
For instance, if they have a family that they're responsible for, then their ability to bear risk would probably be lower. If they're much younger and they, depending on what their financial outgoings are, they can probably bear more risk. They would need to understand what their skills are and what they think that they could be really good at. They would also need to understand if they have any capability whatsoever of successfully running a business, which isn't easy, as you know, as any of our friends here that run businesses will attest to. It's not straightforward, and It's not always as exciting and sexy as is made out, right? It's pretty, like it is, it's difficult, right? So there's a lot of things they need to consider, like are they prepared to take the risk? Are they able to suffer the downside? What is it that they think that they're really good at? Either to build a business that's going to give them an income which is sufficient to pay for the lifestyle that they believe that they want. Now, not everyone has to or wants to or should make $1 million a year or $10 million a year or whatever, right? It's not necessary. Literally the conversation we were having out here earlier, I was like, I think I might get a van and live in it because I want to
that's what you ask.
That's what I want to do, right?
Yeah.
Now, there's lots of people who could do that and they could set up a business, start a business, do what they wanted at the same time. I don't think... It's not for everyone. There's no harm in trying these things. Generally, if you approach them with the right attitude, you've got a business which you think solves a problem, and you think you could deliver a product or a service excellently, which means that you can make money from it. And then you've got to figure out, is that going to be enough money to sustain the lifestyle that I would want?
I think, just not to interrupt you there, but like I think a lot of the times it's that I don't have the money right now, like the financial jump from cutting the salary to jumping. I think that's where most people get scared. Like, would you suggest people, how do they just like cross over, aka like go in and work in the field of where they actually want to start? Or
I'd say so, yeah. You'd probably want to get some experience in it, whatever you think you might want to do, right?
Yeah.
But there's all sorts of things that entrepreneurial things that you can do.
Yeah.
But I think not always entirely. If you speak to let's say, certainly over 50%, I would imagine, of entrepreneurs, they would probably tell you, I've always known that I would do my own thing. I've always known that I would
Did you know?
I always was. I always was doing my own thing. I was always like looking for like opportunities always. Yeah. Since I was tiny. But I think it's never been easier if you take the right attitude, you find a niche that you want to work in. Yeah. It's really easy now. It's never been easier to start a business. Arguably. A proper business. Yeah. But it doesn't mean it's for everyone. I'd advise it's not for everyone.
What do they say?
Strongly.
Like 9 out of 10 people wants to be led. Like literally 90% wants to be led, and only the 10% actually want to lead. You know what I mean? And even without, like, even in those leaders, I don't think a lot of them are natural leaders in itself. You know what I mean? So, like back on your thing, like I never thought about doing my own thing. Never, because I saw my dad doing it. Like he had the Christmas tree farm. Like
it's usually an intro. That's usually if your dad is doing it or someone in your family, that's usually...
it's there. Like when I'm looking back at basically 80% of my family members all doing sales.
Okay.
Business, real estate, selling freaking to, cars. They're all in sales. And when I was 16, I figured out I wanted to do something in business and sales. But I never thought about fitness, doing my own thing. It was just all happened naturally. So, I think that's a blessing. That's a sign. I pulled myself out of Denmark, went to Australia, and I was like, maybe I should just become a personal trainer and do fitness down here. I'm pretty good at it. And then 1, 2, 3, that became a business. But it was never on my radar. So I'm lucky in regards to that. But it goes back to actually what you're saying. It's like I knew when I was 16, I was very driven towards people that are good at sales, communication, influence, because I loved their energy. I was inspired by their energy, and that was my pull. So in some way or another, I would end up in that field.
So when you see Simon online, comes across very confident, very charismatic, and it's an impressive representation of a human. But genuinely, in real life, Simon is wicked, and like the energy that he'll bring to a group of people or whatever's going on, like the representation that you see, if you're thinking of working with him, like that's what he's going to bring to you, and you're just looking like consistent, like bam, bam. And I think it's so, the thing that impresses me the most about you, you're just like bam, consistent, bam, disciplined, and as a differentiator now, it's so important to have that in you as a differentiator. So yeah. Do you want me to rephrase that in some way in case we get to make it more?
That's pretty good. You can snap that in. That could be a testimonial, by the way. I appreciate that. But like,
5 stars.
Yeah, I know. But that, that's a good segue into what it really is about. Because obviously you went from corporate, right? You worked.
I was corporate for over 10 years,
Yeah,
pretty much.
And then into. Did you start the betting thing as the first business?
No, there was. I was always selling like stuff. I was always selling like bits of stuff, like eBay type stuff, or just all sorts of things, right?
Yeah.
But just not at any sort of scale. Just like, I'll do this. Why not? I can sell a few bits and pieces.
Yeah.
But no, I had one business before with an ex, which sort of gave me insight into the ability to sell stuff online at scale with repeatable processes in quite a streamlined way and make decent money from it, right? And then I actually looked at 2 other businesses which were, I wouldn't say describe them as flops, but not successful for one reason or another. Didn't lose too much money on them, did lose quite a lot of time and mental energy. And then this one where I'd learn a lot of lessons from the previous ones before seeing a gap in the market to do something which aligned to how the values that I have, and it all just felt so natural going into it. But there was just tons of stuff that has gone wrong throughout the very careful planning of that business. And it's only just now at a point, I wouldn't say that, weirdly, like I've never doubted myself in it. Because I've known that I could.
You're there.
I can see what we're building here. I can see it. And it's just going to take time to get all the building blocks in place.
Yeah.
But that's not for the faint-hearted, and that's a huge amount of risk that I've taken on.
Yeah.
That's an unpalatable level of risk for most people to even fathom.
Even when you told me that first time what you did, like
people aren't prepared to do that.
Yeah.
You know, no guts, no glory, as they say.
Exactly.
No guts, no glory. Even if you say we're quitting a job and to start a business. So let's say that you quit a corporate job and went to do a PT, and you were like, right, I want to do some PTing, and then I want to try and whatever it might be, share your knowledge online via coaching courses or develop products related to that business. There's still this huge opportunity cost that you've given up from quitting something that's high paying, and basically going back to square one. Actually, it was it was Darren. Where were we in here?
I was just going to say, it looks. I think you.
We next. I think we're next. We're here.
It's a different studio.
Different studio.
Yeah. We're not even in Bali right now.
It could be anywhere.
Yeah. Exactly.
But he had a similar type of thing, and it's what happens in life, right?
Yeah.
So like you climb to the top of this mountain, you take a look around.
Yeah.
You're like, oh shit, I'm at the top.
Yeah.
Wrong fucking mountain.
Yeah.
Like, gotta go back down.
Yeah.
And climb and figure out the next one that you want to be climbing, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that's so that's a recurring theme of life, not just professionally. I love what I do. Yeah. Absolutely love it.
Do you love the business or do you love the product? Do you love the feel like?
I love the business. I love the product. I love the philosophy for what we do.
Yeah.
I love the fact that we inspire other people to possibly live in a slightly different way, slightly more thoughtfully. I absolutely love everything about what we've built so far. We now have an incredible team to springboard into the next however long of this business.
Yeah. So what are you actually doing? Like just so you can explain that to the listener. Like,
so everyone should know by now.
Yeah, I know. So look him up, man.
So
they're guessing now. Is he a pimp or is he?
So do you know what I used to? My answer changes depending on who I'm speaking to. We have the best bed sheets in the world. We were the OG B Corporation sustainable sleep bedding company in the UK. So ethical bedding, trading through ethicalbedding.com. So predominantly use eucalyptus as our primary textile. We also use bamboo and post-consumer recycled bottles, depending on the fillers of what we're making. We do mattresses using things like coconut, flax, hemp. We have sustainability in mind for everything that we do in terms of touch points with the customer through packaging, recyclability of packaging, offset of carbon through packaging. Just now looking to move production almost entirely to India, which uses to a production facility that's using entirely renewables, so solar, mostly solar, to power the factory. And really what we're trying to do is create a better philosophy for how people view their sleep and the level of importance of their sleep by providing much better sleeping conditions, but also through what we're doing as a brand is trying to bring people a little bit. I love nature. Love it. Like bring people a little bit closer to nature. Like absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So bring people a little bit closer to nature. So in terms of how we're positioned from in our marketing, but also in the textiles that we're using and the end of life processes. And yeah, like I love it. And like there's so much scope to go into so many different things just through this brand and through this business, and give people information about what they're consuming. So the headlines for eucalyptus, I've said this so many times now.
I haven't heard it.
Yeah, the headlines.
I haven't heard it.
The headlines for eucalyptus, we use 95% less water, 30% less energy, no farmable land, no herbicides, no pesticides.
Yeah.
As a textile, in terms of the sustainability credentials, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But in terms of the sleep credentials, it's fantastic as well. So it has the same benefits as silk for your hair, for your skin.
Yeah.
It's zero static, because there's no herbicides and pesticides, so everything's non-toxic.
Yeah.
Like there's not really a better textile to sleep in. It's a viscose, it's lyocell, so it's a viscose textile. But you can do similar stuff with bamboo, but not quite as well as eucalyptus. And you can, create a decent cotton product, although the hygiene levels won't be as high with a cotton. And I wouldn't recommend a regular cotton. I would always recommend an organic cotton anyway. There's traditional linen as well, which you can sleep in, which is pretty good in terms of breathability and hygiene, but it's a different feel. But yeah, I love it. I love all of our products. I love everyone that we've got working in the business now. I don't really tend to step back and reflect on everything that we've done, but it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Like what we've built.
It's always happening in conversations. You know what I mean? Like fuck, what have you actually done?
Yeah, like it's wild. It's wild.
How many years has it been on right now? You've been on the English version of Shark Tank, yeah?
I was.
Yeah.
I was.
How was that?
It was interesting.
Are they dickheads or?
Well,
they're supposed to, aren't they?
There were a few difficult moments in there. I spoke to some people about this before, but there's a new series coming out soon. Actually,
Okay.
I put a message on LinkedIn. No one took me up on it.
In terms of what? Like
I said if anyone's thinking of either applying to go on it or has been accepted to go on it, yeah, give me a shout and I'll have a chat with you.
That's awesome.
No one spoke to me, but neither here nor there. But now my advice to anyone that's either going on it, although they would have filmed it in.
You on air, yeah?
Yeah. They would have filmed it in. So the next season that's coming out soon would have been filmed. But yeah, like it's cool. I would just be a little bit mindful of use it as a PR exercise as opposed to necessarily wanting to get invested. Possibly. I know there are a lot of successful businesses that have been on there and have taken investment and have worked with the dragons or the sharks on there. But it's a cool experience. It's a really cool experience. I'd recommend people to do it. Yeah. Like if they have a business idea they'd like to execute.
So what was it like? What was the main thing you got out of it? Like the main thing that stands out as, wow, that was really worth it. Like I really learned something, or I really got something from it, or something came unexpected.
The things that you wouldn't have seen on air actually. So there was one thing to do with margins and pricing. At the time of filming, not screening, there was some weird stuff going on with GBP to USD exchange rate. So a little bit more aware and mindful of which currencies we're holding and at which points we pay for certain things or start production for different things. It's just like proper business stuff, like not like showbiz stuff. Sensible things. The main takeaway from me is which is quite difficult actually, is just to always be aware of the final edit. When you sign the papers, what was the thing? Because you were going to do something, right?
That was dating and stuff.
Yeah. Well, but just be aware when you sign those papers.
Yeah.
You're basically saying film what you want and do what you want.
Cut what you want. Yeah.
And cut it up any way you want and whatever. And so I'd just say be like really mindful of that. And it's so much so that now I've sort of said to myself, I'll only do long form content with people I either have a relationship with or I know that there's some degree of fucking rationality and sense behind
it makes sense. It's aligned,
because it's just a bit dangerous otherwise. Ordinarily, no, but if stuff's going out on national television and social media outside of your control,
your brain.
It's pretty dangerous, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of wouldn't do that. Yeah. Again, or I would, but I would just sort of play around with it. I would go on that type of thing again. I would just mess around with it.
Yeah, exactly. And in the end of the day, as you say, it's a learning experience. Anything you do is like testing and trialing and doing these sort of things. So so with your business, with sleep and these sort of things, like you and I, we're pretty good. Like we talked about routines and health. We train in the same gym. You're ripped. I'm like, he's eating freaking bananas and chicken. You're in good shape.
What, me?
Yeah, you are.
Try.
You're getting there. It's always when you come back from the UK, it's kind of like, okay, he needs like 4 weeks and then he's good.
For real. Layers of fluff.
Yeah,
just appear.
obviously because you're in the sleep area, and I love sleep as well. Like I had 9 months, I think it was in 2021, where I basically got into a bad sleeping routine.
All been there.
Which, you know what I mean? And you're just like, what happened? You know what I mean? Was it stress? What was it? So I became quite curious about like what is actually sleep, because I thought it was just like hit the pillow, sleep, and then you wake up the next day. So how could you talk to us around, 1, your routine, 2, how important sleep is, and 3, like what are the, as you said, with your textiles and routines, and what would really just be some hacks people can apply to their life to have better sleep and energy?
Do you know what's fascinating, right? I often think this. I have a little boy who's 4 in March. He goes to he's starting a regular school soon. I think beyond sort of like basic numeracy and literacy, what sort of things might be helpful to learn? There's a degree of education that happens in, or should happen in, a formal school education environment, right? And then there's a lot that should either happen in school or at home. And it's stuff to do with like goal setting, which is, or understanding what you think you want, and goal setting to get there.
Yeah.
I don't think I was ever taught that in school.
No.
I think I had to learn that through trial and error throughout the course of my life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why isn't that taught in school? Sleep. Like why isn't it taught in school? Like meditation. Why is that not taught in school?
Yeah.
Nutrition to an extent, and cooking.
You learn how to cook.
Some cultures are better than others. I think in Japan they're fantastic with this.
Okay.
They not only do they educate them, like I believe, much more about food.
Yeah.
It's from a very young age they're cooking the stuff, and they're cleaning up afterwards, and they're eating it themselves, and they're learning as they go when they do this. And I can only speak, for myself in the UK, or schooling in the UK, that doesn't happen, or it does happen, but you kind of have to like choose to do it and maybe forgo some other type of information. But it's like, why that should be going on? But even sleep in itself, as a coach and as a trainer, I would assume it's one of the verticals in your coaching course, right? I think people grossly underestimate the importance of sleep in terms of their mental performance, physical performance, emotional stability, and general ability to function to their maximum as a human. I grossly underestimate it. I don't know if this is right, Simon. I know I look like a fitness coach, but I'm not a fitness coach, believe it or not.
Could be. Bamboo. Yeah.
My understanding is 70% of your overall visible well-being is attributable to nutrition and what you eat. 20% roughly is how you exercise and how you train, and 10% is how you sleep. That's what I've heard some time ago off a friend who was a coach. I don't know how accurate that is, but I'd be willing to bet that sleep is even more important than people are giving this like 10% to.
Exactly.
So anyway, I'll answer the question, shall I?
What are some things you do?
Yeah. So the 2 most important things are routine.
Yeah.
The singular most important thing is routine. So go to bed at the same time every day and wake up at the same time every day. That's going to form 80%, 90% of what constitutes a good night's sleep. The rest is going to be down to the level of comfort, specifically the temperature with which you're sleeping at. If you're sleeping too hot or too cold, you're not going to have as good a night's sleep, which is an issue in climates like Bali or wherever, right? Because you want to try and get the temperature right for your sleeping, for your body and sleep.
What is actually happening there? What is that? Like, it feels uncomfortable when you wake up sweaty, but what is actually happening? Do you know that? Like,
so when you go into towards the second stage of sleep, your heart rate begins to slow down, and your body temperature begins to get a little bit lower. If you're sleeping too hot, I don't know. I guess your body doesn't like it, right? Yeah. It says I want to be cooler.
Yeah.
But sleep in itself is really weird. Like the nature of sleep itself, the fact we have to sleep is totally weird.
Yeah.
As so we're predators, right? Well, I am. I don't know about you.
We haven't been out there yet, have we?
We could do it.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, right, and we're having to sleep for such a large portion.
Yeah.
So we're in this like semi-conscious state of zero alertness where our bodies are limp and our minds are inactive for quite a large period of time, so much so that we have to put ourselves ordinarily into a home, in a bed, in a home with a locked door, right? Think about that.
It's true.
Think about any other, like, okay, sure, like some animals go in and take shelter in barns or in whatever it might be. But it's weird, right?
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
it's strange. Anyway, right. So
It's charging the phone. Yeah, it really like in the end of the day, it's like machines. It's everything. You know, it needs that. What is it? It uses something and it needs something back in again. Like
it's physical recovery, physical cell recovery, but also for your mind as well.
Yeah.
So it's your mind that will suffer first before your body.
Yeah.
If you're not getting proper sleep, your mind will suffer way before your body, ordinarily.
Yeah.
And it's usually in the latter part of a sleep cycle, which is when the sort of like mental processing of what's happened to you during the previous 24 hours or whatever it might have been. That's when that recovery would take place. It's for your mental ability, emotional, capacity. Right. Yeah. But anyway, so sleep hack. Let's like condense this. Sleep hack number 1. Yeah. Go to bed at the same time every night. Wake up at the same time every night. Typically, you're going to need. Most people need 7 to 8 hours sleep. Some people say they need a lot less. Personally, I don't believe them. Like you can, but I don't believe them. So figure out what yours is, 7, 8 hours. And it's much easier here in Bali because the sun is setting at roughly the same time. The sun is rising at pretty much the same time. So you can wake up to sunrise every morning if you want to, just by being sensible with your daylight hours. Yeah. For instance, by coincidence, we met each other this morning at 6 a.m. At the gym. Yeah. I'd been up since 5. I don't know about you. Yeah. You wake up, sunrise, get some sun in your face, get some vitamin D. It's good for you. Yeah. I've not been doing it, but I did go through a phase where I'd watch the sunset. And it's just like nice, and then just start like a wind down routine. Yeah. It's so underrated going to bed at the same time, and this includes weekends. Yeah. And we've spoken about this as well. The difficulty with doing this is that it eliminates particular types of social occasions or. Typically dating becomes problematic. Anything social in the night becomes problematic. But it depends whether you're prepared to make the sacrifice to get it nailed. Sometimes, regularly actually, I don't do what I know is good for me, even though though I'm aware of it. Yeah. So I'm making a choice to negatively impact my health. Yeah. By not
to then gain something else, obviously.
By not doing what I know is good for me.
Yeah, yeah.
But the other sleep, it's not even a hack. Like this stuff's obvious.
Yeah, yeah.
Like don't drink loads of alcohol and then expect to get a good night's sleep. Yeah. You won't. Like you'll numb yourself. Yeah. And you'll sedate yourself into a sleep, but you won't get truly restorative sleep, physical sleep. So just don't do it. Yeah. And caffeine as well, I think it's 8 hours, the half-life of caffeine. Yeah. But just in general, don't overdo it on the caffeine. Yeah.
Like what about like the phone? Because I think that's the one, the Netflix, the phones, the TV.
Don't do it.
What happens there when you do it too late? Yeah. Is it the same thing with sunlight? You're waking up, you're suppressing your melatonin or?
So at 8 p.m, my phone switches to black and white. And sometimes I'll switch it back to color. And if I'm doing something... or I want to.
You have to, yeah.
If I want to. Or if I have to, or if I want to, I will. But that's like a trigger for me to be like, to say, okay, now's the time to start winding down. And you don't need to be using a phone now. One of the most powerful tools that you can begin to embed into a nighttime routine. So you want things to be starting to become more calm. Phones are
you feel it literally.
Phones are chaotic.
I know.
TVs are chaotic.
You feel it.
You don't need that.
You want to jump.
But different types of breath work or meditations that you can do, and if you begin to build that into as part of your routine, and you consider it as you looking after your health, right? You consider this is I'm doing this for my health. This is self-care for my health. You can not only process the information for things that have happened better during the day, but also make yourself calmer and more restful before you go into one of the most important scenarios that we all face every day, which is the period of time that we're sleeping, right? Yeah. Typically, my routine would be, let's say, it used to be way better. It used to be like way on point. Begin winding down, let's say 1 hour before you think you want your target sleep time to be. For me, it's something that I've done for the last few years. I have a routine of gratitudes that I do when I'm in bed, in my head, where I'm repeating 5 things 3 times that I'm grateful for. Some of them are very simple things, and some of them might be aspirational things or things that give me strength. And I kind of view it as a form of prayer and a form of a way of one of the last things that I do before going into the totally different state is reminding myself of all the wonderful things that I'm grateful for. And I think that that's really powerful. And I think, people should try doing that. It's not that complicated to do it. I used to listen to guided meditations before for upwards of, let's say, half an hour or 45 minutes before sleeping. I now know I'm not as good as doing it as a guided meditation, but I can now do some pretty good, some pretty good meditations. Like I do a yoga nidra type meditation, which I'll just do myself, which would take me maybe 20 minutes or so, 20 to 30 minutes.
And you just lay in bed, like closed eyes.
Lay in bed calmly.
Yeah.
And unwind, loosen my neck, relax my body.
Yeah.
And usually at that point is when I would start doing my gratitude and things for the day. And I would either do some sort of meditation for myself at that point.
Yeah.
Or I would do a recap and think about if I'm particularly tired, sometimes I'll fall asleep before I finish my gratitudes, right? Or I'll do a run through of things that have happened to me in that day, something, right? And
good, like you try to keep it good, or do you try?
Of course.
Yeah. No, you don't go into issues like stress.
No. And this is one of these things as well. This comes from forming habits. I didn't just decide, okay, tomorrow I'm going to get my sleep routine nailed. Well, I probably did, but I probably didn't do it very well to start with. It's a process of trial and error, and this longevity of doing something, which forms a habit. I think it's over. I think the number the quoted number is 63 days for a human to form a habit, and I believe it actually takes longer to break a habit. I think I might be making this up. It's basically about 2 months to form a habit. Yeah. So if you decided that you wanted to form a better habit for your sleep, you just cherry pick one or two things out of that you might want to do, and set your time. It's not, and it will take. It takes time to do it, and then you'll start to reap the rewards, and it becomes a habit to do it. Yeah. It's one of the things that we're actually looking to do for my brand is to introduce people more to mindfulness, which is a very important part of my life. And specifically to give people some very short, some medium, some longer length guided meditations, which they can use as part of the embedding a better sleep routine and better sleep practices. Yeah. So I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, bro, and I think basically like what I'm thinking when you're speaking there, it's like as you said with habits, why people not choose to do it. I think it's a little bit like anything, like reading books or learning something new. I think the issue for a lot of people is like they don't have anything to put it into. Meaning, for someone like you and I, sleep, like you and I, we have a conversation. Should we go out tonight, Friday? I'm like, fuck no.
No, sleep time.
Fuck no, I want sleep. Grandpa time. Why? Because we see the value in us waking up tomorrow morning at 6 and get shit done or do work. We want to do a workout. We want to like film this podcast. Like we actually have something to put that energy into. And I think a lot of the times people they don't see the value. Why should I optimize my sleep with 10%? Because, it's a little bit like you heard the saying, people are like, yeah, I'm going out drinking on Sundays, because it doesn't matter. It's the boss time tomorrow. Like I don't really care if I'm coming hungover to work. So I think, if you break that down, I think a lot of the times it's going back to what you're saying, it's the why.
Like, absolutely, it's the why.
It links into everything.
It comes down to what people value. What do people value? And how much do they want something? There's a difference between thinking how much you want something, saying how much you want something, and doing the fucking thing that demonstrates that's what I want. Yeah. And that's where people trip up. Yeah. That's where they struggle. Yeah. And that's life, I guess. That's their choice. We all make choices, right?
Yeah, for sure.
We all make choices.
So what would you like? How old are you now? 37?
37.
37.
Chronologically. Biologically.
Mentally, what are you?
Biologically 26, last time I checked it. Seriously, right?
It's true. I think so, bro. I'm like, I don't have kids yet. You've been blessed to have one yet, but I'm like 35. Like, you're still young, even for females today.
But this is the thing about life extension. So this is the thing for me, right? It's not about seeing how living for as long as you can. Yeah. It's about living as well as you can for as long as you can, which means looking after yourself physiologically now. Yeah. And I always did to an extent, but not always as much as I could have done. And I think I'll make a prediction now, right? People are living for an extraordinarily long time, and it's people that are now being like super aware of when they're in their 30s, for instance, of how much value and emphasis are they putting on their physical health and probably their like emotional and spiritual well-being as well. What rewards are they reaping later on? And I say instantly reaping and perpetually through compounding forever. You know, when you're 60, 70, 80, 90, and you and I'd be willing to bet, I don't know what the odds are, you could probably Google this, but probably statistically either one of us should probably live until we're 100 plus.
Yeah.
Just based on, you know, advancements in science and blah, blah.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
But people don't necessarily want to put as much, they don't want to do the work to get the things they say that they think they want.
Yeah.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. You know?
In general, yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, people, it goes back to what you're saying, like people are content, you know, in many ways with what they have and they're okay, you know what I mean, which is fine. But then it's almost like they should almost like block this off. They shouldn't say 2 days a week that they want this, this, and this and not, you know what I mean? I think that's where they create that struggle for themselves, you know, mentally.
What's the sort of, are you mostly male clients?
Only male clients, yeah.
And it's typically professionals?
Yeah, all professionals, sales professionals, you know, typical LinkedIn corporate guys, yeah.
And the profile is our kind of age. So let's say
it's 30, 40. It's actually one of my last question for you, because it's like the guys in the 30s and 40s, these are the guys to be working with, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, if you can paint the typical characteristic, you know, the ideal, you know, avatar would be like a 30-year-old guy, you know. He can be in a relationship where he's single, but he's 10 to 15 kgs out of shape. He's in a job he's been in for a while. He kind of wants more, but he's not like, he's stuck, you know what I mean? He lost a bit the mojo, the drive, the confidence within himself, and he's just an autopilot. He might go out once a week, drink alcohol and stuff, and he's just with the same 5, 6, 7 friends. How would you coach, if you had to, a guy like that and say, Junior or whatever, what would you be like, okay, bro, like these are the 2 or 3 things. If you got that in order right now, aka get yourself a 6-pack or get in shape, like what would be this 1 or 2 or 3 things that you think would be super important for a man in his 30s or 40s to focus on right now to get himself back into this like belief?
How to regain mojo. Wait, before I answer the question, can I tell you a story? He's never going to watch this, so I can say it. So I live with 2 Norwegians, your Scandinavian Viking brothers. One of them, I was coming back to Bali, and he's like, great, like going flat out, like full on, get shredded, be super healthy, eat clean, sleep well. He's like, great, I'm going to do it with you. I think he lasted for about 2 weeks. He's like, nah. And then I think, was it yesterday or the day before? He's like, I'm out, I can't do it. Even though, and he texted me, he said, oh, is there some, you know, this is about a week ago, is there somewhere I can get a body scan? And I texted him back, I said, don't worry about getting a body scan. I said, just eat this food, sleep during these types of patterns and train this way. Don't worry about body scans and all this other stuff. Just like get the basics right. And then he quit. He quit shortly afterwards. But you know, that's his call. You know, what would
That's a good first point. Like, forget about what plans and programs you should do. Like, just do the basics. Like, get your shit going.
Get the basics.
Yeah.
Get the basics.
Yeah.
Nutrition for me, get the basics right. Educate yourself. You know, there's so much access to information now. Educate yourself about what good nutrition looks like. If you're unsure, like a very, very good starting point is if it comes generally in a packet, don't eat it. If you don't understand what the ingredients are, don't eat it. Like caveman style eating. If you can't kill it, don't eat it.
Yeah.
If you can't pick it,
Yeah.
don't eat it.
Yeah.
If it was around, if it didn't exist more than 100 years ago, probably don't eat it.
Yeah.
Eat lots of different colours of things. Understand what your protein requirements are. Understand what superfoods are and the general nutritional benefits of different things. Make sure you're getting plenty of fibre. Don't eat too many cereals, oats. Don't eat any bread. It's good stuff. It's like basic stuff.
Yeah.
Understand what your training goals are. Like, what do you think your training goals are? In reality, you know, getting insane, you know, 6-pack billboard kind of shape for most people is probably not that realistic.
Yeah.
It can be,
Yeah.
but that's really very difficult to do and probably not necessary. But ordinarily for a guy in his 30s, his testosterone levels would have already started to tail off. By 35, it'd be considerably less. 40, going to be considerably less. So you want to be making sure that you're eating foods and exercising enough to make sure that maintains
Keeping
high,
it up, yeah.
which is also part of having a good sleep routine. Make sure you've got any of the deficiencies that you might have covered by basically a lot of stuff's covered by multivitamins, and there's other things that you can have during, you know, as supplements as well. I think most people, medical advice is vitamin D3. People need it. Just take that anyway. But understand how to eat well, how to train well, how to sleep well.
Yeah.
figure out what your why is. Like, figure out why you're doing it. Are you doing it? And you know, this should be, probably is already fundamental to your business.
Yeah.
Why are they in a position that they're feeling like that? Is it through laziness? Is it through lack of information? Is it through lack of time? Is it that they're prioritizing their time to do other things? There's no magic wand, really. And this is one of the things that I find that I love about fitness in general, is that you can take some shortcuts. You know, performance enhancing drugs, blah, blah, that often have extremely detrimental side effects. Yeah. But there's no real shortcuts. There's no shortcuts to doing loads of hard work. There's no shortcuts to eating the right food. There's no shortcuts to sleeping more. You can't, like, you just got to do it.
Yeah, it's just time.
But I don't know.
Getting in shape, like, do the basics, focus on the nutrition, the training, the sleep.
Yeah.
And then, as we again talked about multiple times, like, why you're doing what you're doing, okay? It all starts with why. Last thing, my friend. What does the word power mean to you?
I want to ask you one question as well.
Sure.
What's your why?
Well, my why, we're running out of time right now. But, like, to be honest, I worked a lot on that. I don't know if you heard the old story with Dale Carnegie. So every time he would have an idea, he would sit back in a chair and he would have a bunch of keys in his hand. Okay. And then as soon as he was about to fall asleep, that key thing would then land down in the metal plate, and then he would wake up. Yeah. That's basically like you're getting into that alpha state. Yeah. And then as soon as you're there, that's when your idea or your solution to your problem came. It was probably in 2020. It was during COVID. I was sitting in my apartment, 35th floor, Melbourne CBD, and I was working a lot on that why thing. And I did the same thing, and I was working on it for a while. It's not just something that comes to you, but I did that exercise. I woke up in my chair in the office, and it just hit me. I want to go all out for the ultimate life experience and make the biggest contribution to the world by helping and inspire other people to do the same. Because this is so innate in me as a person, as a football athlete, as a kid. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to go all out. I wanted to be professional. Yep. When I was a drug addict, it was not just about do a little bit. I went all out and became an addict. Yeah. When I became into fitness, I didn't just want to train. I became a fitness athlete, became one of the best fitness athletes in Denmark. And what do I do now? I'm a high-performance coach. I'm an entrepreneur. I don't just want to sit and be happy with 200K a year or 300K a year. I want to go all out and freaking build an organization that's all over the world. And in doing so, I want to be an inspiration for other people to have that. If you just have that fire and that energy, life is just more fun, in my opinion. That's my why.
Wicked.
So you can see I've been thinking about it.
Wicked. Yeah. so you're basically, you're choosing. This is really interesting. I know you're like, we're nearly finished. Yeah, so you're basically choosing, you're making a choice that you want to have an amazing life and you want to contribute to society. Yeah. But there must be something in you. There must be there's something inside of you, innate already, that exists where you're like, I got this. When you're doing your football, when you're doing whatever it is you're doing, when you're doing your fitness, when you're doing shit you shouldn't be doing, like you're going to this extra distance in, which is fascinating, right?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, it's like if I buy Tim Tams for you, are you the type that takes 2 Tim Tams or the whole package?
I don't know what a Tim Tam is, but I'll take 2.
The chocolate. Oh, you take 2?
Well, I guess so. I don't know what it is. What is it?
Well, I think it's Australian. I thought it was in the UK as well. But like whatever chocolate cake or chocolate you have at home, it's just like beautiful. But let's say you were there by yourself, like a freaking like. I wouldn't have that, bro. No, but I'm the person. I will take the whole rack. It's like a Tim Tam, there's 11 in it. I don't know why they make it 11. It's like biscuits, chocolate thing, and it's kind of like they're gone in like 10 seconds, all of them. Okay. So that's kind of like my downside and my good side. I go too far. I want to like not be able to breathe with the burgers and the chocolate. Yeah, I go hard. But yeah, for you, like, what does the word power mean to you?
Power, it's a force. Power is a force. It's something that should be treated with a lot of respect. It's something that if you have it, you need to be very responsible with how you use it. And it's not something that you should necessarily aim to achieve, like power and influence or whatever it might be. But I'd say there's a certain amount of something that's more remarkable than the ordinary. I don't know exactly how I would define it, to be honest.
But you would say you have power over yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you would say,
Not always.
But you would say it's a positive thing for you to be in control of yourself and be, like, basically what you said. I know my why. I know how I'm getting there. Like, that's power.
That's all we have.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else do you have? If you don't have control of yourself, what do you have?
Exactly.
You must have control of yourself.
I love that. Yeah. Let's finish on that note, my friend.
Wicked.
Thank you so much for coming. A pleasure. And we'll do one more for sure.